What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome. My name is Gemma Jade, but today we are going to be discussing haunted mirrors. As I was researching into this subject, I kept going back and forth, wondering if you all would like this topic and whether or not it was really a relevant discussion for us to be having. I came to the conclusion that the topic is always relevant because, for the most part at least, we all have at least one mirror in our home, and there are mirrors literally everywhere we go. Think about it. Even if they aren't immediately noticeable, there is almost always at least a mirror in the bathroom of any building that you enter or go into. With that being said, I have a long-standing issue with mirrors myself, and I'm currently dealing with 2 mirrors at my mother's house that have demonic attachments, with one of them having been taken over by an actual jinn. If you don't know what a jinn is, please see my videos on the jinn and shadow people, and also I wrote a whole book on shadow entities and sleep paralysis, and there's an entire chapter dedicated to that specific entity. I don't think an average everyday person really grasps and understands just how mirrors can be used to create portals as tools in spells and rituals, both the good and bad kind, for lack of better words there, and just all of the many ways that they are tools for supernatural entities on all sides of the vibrational spectrum to get to us. It's really overwhelming when you get to the heart of it. Mirrors can be extremely dangerous if you don't know what you're doing or what you're dealing with. And I thought the best way for me to show you all that was to bring the discussion about it to life right here in this video. For as long as mirrors have existed, and that's obviously for a very long time, they've had all kinds of legends, lore, superstitions, and alleged curses attached to them. When used properly, they are a portal to the spirit realm or the other side, but unless you are knowledgeable and skilled in how to properly use them for those purposes, you're putting yourself at risk for great danger and for all sorts of bad things to happen to you. Guys, the ancient Romans even believed that mirrors would mirror a person's soul right back to them, and that they were able to bring great discord and strife into the person's life if they were misused. So many cultures throughout the ages and all across the globe, believe in similar things, and that mirrors have a myriad of other supernatural, lower vibrational qualities such as, and these are only a few in a list that's incomprehensibly long, sucking out a person's soul, being portents of death, and even glimpsing into other dimensions, as well as possibly traveling to and from other dimensions. I have to say, they weren't wrong, and all of these things and so many more are completely accurate when it comes to misusing mirrors for supernatural purposes. There are also many cultures that purposely use mirrors to communicate with the spirit realm and individually chosen spirits as well. Mirrors are one of the many barriers between the world of the living and the dead, and one of the things that separates us from them and holds the so-called veil everyone is always talking about. And speaking of the veil, mirrors serve as a way to basically walk right through it, so to speak. So, could it be that all of these old legends and ancient superstitions are why so many people, myself included, have claimed to have come across, at least at one point in their life, haunted mirrors? Or is it possible that all of the legends and myths about them are true, and it's more than likely that they really are wreaking havoc all over the world because they're so closely aligned with and give access to restless spirits and other lower vibrational, evil, and possibly even demonic entities? I'm obviously going to go with yes and all of the above on that one, but that could just be because I know it to be true as an absolute fact. But what about the skeptics? Do they kind of have a point here? Listen to these stories of allegedly haunted mirrors and let me know what conclusion you've drawn and what you all think at the end of it. Let's jump right in. There are many instances throughout history of supernatural beings and entities gravitating towards mirrors, mainly for many of the above-mentioned reasons, and those entities take many forms. So one of the most commonly reported types of experiences that are reported regarding mirrors are people saying they see shapes and figures in the mirror's reflection. Random figures, shadow figures, a wide array of apparitions, and the list goes on, including people and entities being reflected in the mirror that aren't in the room with the humans who are looking into it and seeing these things. So extra people. That creeps me out. Mirrors creep me out. And I know a lot of you feel the exact same way because we've talked about it before. I don't like looking in mirrors. You wouldn't believe the things I've seen. And normal, average, everyday people see the same things. I just don't think they realize that that's what it is. Like, they try to convince themselves that there's a reasonable or rational explanation to why their face just distorted and morphed and it looked like a hand was reaching out to them. Maybe they're having a breakdown, you know? There are too many reports of that type of phenomenon to list here today, but let's at least take a look at one case in particular that I found very interesting. On the site Quora, I found a commenter named Destiny Globitz who claims to be a spiritual advisor, and what she said happened to one of her clients will blow your mind if this isn't something you were aware of or something that you've never experienced. I'll let her tell it. She said about the situation, quote, "One of my cases, a young woman loved mirrors. She would go to yard sales, estate sales for unusual mirrors. One day she found an old, beautiful mirror from ceiling to floor. She had a sensation that something was trying to get her attention until one day she was looking out the window and said, 'Show yourself to me and talk.'" This was a bad no-no to say the least. Her family started arguing, getting sick, as well as the pets. Things started moving or disappearing. At that point, she contacted me. When I went in, I found out through psychometry, a form of tool/technique to communicate with spirit. We found out that the person who owned it was a very negative, very vain human being. When this person passed away, the mirror was sold to my clients, and the negative energy and spirit of this person was still attached to the mirror. When my client said what she said to the mirror, she released the energy/spirit into her home. The spirit fed off of the negative energy becoming stronger, which allowed it to then become a poltergeist. I had to do a cleansing on the whole family, the pets, the home, and most of all, trap the spirit within the mirror again through a technique. After the cleansing, the mirror was thrown away properly so it couldn't ever be used again. Once that was done, the family, the pets, and the home were back to normal and healthy again. End quote. Yeah. You don't invite things in. That's like when you're using a Ouija board, and I say this all the time, you don't say, "If you're here, give us a sign." Believe it or not, that is inviting whatever entity is attached to that board. Good, bad, ugly, worser. I don't know. Whatever entity is attached, that's an invitation. I know a lot of people, it's like really hard to comprehend, but it's true. I promise. I promise. So this is incredibly common. And whether she knows it or not, that client is a sensitive. She was able to immediately do it just by talking. Like I said, most people can, but this does seem to be a pretty extreme case. When I say it's common, though, that doesn't mean that most people are aware of it, because usually they're not. And then they have to call in someone like Destiny or someone like me to help them out and remove the spirit or do whatever we need to do. We have to get them out of the trouble they get themselves into, because people don't take seriously the fact that words have so much power. Human beings use speech to communicate with one another and somewhat take words for granted, not really understanding the power that they have. I always advise all of you to choose your words carefully and wisely, because what you put out into the universe in deed and in word will boomerang right back at you. So make sure you speak positively to the best of your ability. It's not possible all the time, I know. So before you attack me in the comments, I already know that, okay? Oh yeah, and don't go inviting things into your home or giving them access to you if you have no idea what type of entity you're dealing with. Cleansings and removals can really add up financially. Not to mention the toll it takes on you. If you sense a spirit is attached to something, get in touch with someone who can help you. And if you feel a negative vibe at all, just get rid of it. That's it. In our next case, there is some sort of either shadow person or demon attached to the mirror that was using it as a portal to go between worlds and between realms. Our witness was in his bedroom one night and just happened to glance over at the full-length mirror he had in there, and he saw a dark figure wearing black clothing in what he described as, quote, a Quaker hat, end quote. And the figure didn't only lurk inside of the mirror, but when it was noticed, it stepped out of the mirror and into the guy's bedroom. I know there are probably some skeptics who are watching this and who think it's silly, but let me just say, I have experienced this and seen the same thing happen more times than I can count. And believe it or not, there are times when a portal spontaneously opens and a human could actually step through to the other side as well. That doesn't usually happen because the human doesn't know that they can step inside. People have seen visions of other worlds in their mirrors and have gone through to them. It doesn't ever end well, or usually doesn't end well, so just be aware of that. Anyway, our witness said of what happened to him as reported by someone else, quote, "The being was wearing a long black cloak and a Quaker hat. He had glowing red eyes. He floated along the floor 3 inches above the ground. No feet could be seen. Yet he was present in a total physical 3-dimensional form. The man who I am talking about was fully awake. This was no dream. The being asked the man if he would like to join them. The being was meant to be the man's spirit guide for life. In return, the man would receive all the material things that he could ever wish for: fame as a movie star, immense riches, the girl for his wife, everything that he had been programmed to desire. The being with the Quaker hat used the mirror as a portal. A portal is an unseen vortex that connects 2 places through time and space, and even dimensions or other realities or timelines," end quote. First of all, the thing asked it to join them. There was more than one, and this was more than likely demonic. So that was someone else telling the witness's story, in case it was confusing for you all like it was for me. Unfortunately, this report ends there, and there's not any information to tell us what happened next and how this all ended up, if it ended at all. I mean, who knows? Maybe he accepted the guy's offer, right? The demon's offer. Who knows? I hate when that happens. I will say, though, a lot of the times when you see a spirit, some kind of entity, people always report that it's floating. It's a few inches above the ground. That's because it's not really here. It's still vibrating in the other realm. It's like half in, half out. It can't land. Does that make sense? Here's the thing, guys. When something just seems evil or feels evil and has glowing red eyes and it offers you everything you've ever wanted and claims to be your spirit guide, run as fast as you can. And I mean that too, in the most literal sense. Spirit guides do not approach anyone in the real world. They only approach astrally unless they're called in. Also, they vibrate so high that they are shrouded in white or golden light. They don't offer you, they never will offer you everything you've ever wanted, because they aren't allowed to even get involved unless you invite them to, and that's on the basis of each individual case. So, if you want to be rich or famous, the guide might be able to bring a few opportunities your way so that you have an easier chance of obtaining the goal as you work hard towards it. But they aren't in a position to just hand you everything you've ever wanted, no questions asked. I believe that mirror in particular was a portal to hell, and that's exactly where this man's soul would have ended up had he agreed to that arrangement. The devil and demons always make too good to be true offers, and that's just what they are. There's always a catch, and the catch is normally your eternal soul. Now, I don't know anything about this man or his life, but I would be willing to bet one of 2 things have happened here to have caused this. Number 1, he innocently came across a mirror that was cursed and already made to have been a portal to hell. Or 2, he somehow, whether accidentally or on purpose, invited this thing in. But we'll never know, because the information I have ends right at the end of that quote. Frustrating, I know, but when all I really have to go on is the internet to get my information, that's the best that I can do, so let's move on. Our next witness just randomly started suffering with terrifying nightmares, and they were so incredibly vivid he thought that they were real. Finally, he discovered what was really going on and where it was all generating from. He said it all started when he moved into a house that had an inordinate number of mirrors in the bedroom he had chosen as his. While the nightmares and sleep terrors were happening, he was also glimpsing shadowy figures and other very frightening entities walking around inside of all of the mirrors when he was the only one in the room. He started to believe that those same entities that he was seeing were purposely attacking him by releasing negative energy into his life. He said, quote, "The nightmare started when we moved into a house with mirrors covering the closet in the master bedroom. The mirrors were an open portal to other dimensions. I knew from feng shui that one should not have mirrors in the bedroom because it causes restless energy. I realize now that mirrors do more than just increase the energy in a room. They let in evil spirits. We were renting, and because the mirrors were on folding doors of the closet, I couldn't work out how to cover them and didn't realize at the time how important it was that I do so. Then a year later, when we moved into another house, the one we were at the time of the writing, I hoped that the nightmares would stop. They didn't stop. This time, while there were no mirrors in the bedroom, the idiots who designed the house did not put a door between the bedroom and the bathroom, just an open arch. Since we were renting, there wasn't much, though, that I could do. Part of the large vanity mirror looked almost directly into the bedroom, and I ignored the part of my mind that told me it was important to do something about that. Once I realized that the bathroom mirror was letting something in that was causing my nightmares, I had two choices: cover up the mirror or put Bible verses on it, similar to the way the mezuzahs protect doorways, end quote. So he kept on having the same issues. And you know, everything he said is absolutely correct, but there's something I picked up here that he doesn't seem to realize, and that's that you or someone else, and with or without your knowledge, had to have done something to open those portals. So the odds that it would be randomly happening to him in two separate homes is astronomically high. What I believe is perhaps the man accidentally invited something to him because of his mention of feng shui. Now, feng shui in and of itself isn't a bad thing, and it really does help you make the most of your space as far as energy and energetic flow is concerned. But what I will say is he may have also been participating in or just researching into other forms of energetic work and inadvertently gained himself several lower vibrational entities and or attachments that like to make use of the mirrors as portals at night. Believe it or not, even yoga can bring things to you that you don't want there if not done properly, and if someone is careless in minding their thoughts or just in the practice of it in general. You have to be just as careful with your thoughts as you should be with your words. That's right. Thoughts, my friend, are just as powerful as words. While this also doesn't have a proper ending, I don't think just covering the mirrors up is going to work for him at that point, because I believe the entities have gained strength and are attached to him now and not the mirrors anymore, because otherwise how did they travel with him? And I know someone's going to say they traveled through the mirrors. It just doesn't work that way. I think, of course, that's where they came from in the first place. They came from the mirrors, but there's no way they would have followed him if there wasn't an attachment. And at that point, using Bible verses might help, but it also might serve as a way to piss them off even more and make them start attacking him while he's awake. However, I digress, because we were not given any more information to go on. So I'll just say I wish him and whoever lives in the house with him tons of luck. Good luck. From the now defunct site Pagans and Witches comes another encounter of something terrifying happening in regards to a mirror. A woman said she and her sister moved into a house with a lot of paranormal activity. They did not know that the home was haunted when they moved into it. There was shadowy apparitions, shadow people, light bulbs, and other electronics exploding for seemingly no reason, aberrant doors slamming and opening on their own all the time, disembodied voices and footsteps, horrific odors, and so much more that was happening in that home at any given time. The woman who reported all of this said that she eventually concluded the place was haunted and decided to move out because she was to the point where she couldn't even sleep alone in her bedroom at night anymore in that house. She believes she figured out the cause of all of the activity when she was gathering her belongings to pack up and move. It was, according to her, an, quote, old haunted mirror, end quote, in the attic that had been there all along and that neither of them had given a second thought to when they first saw it there upon moving in. The site reported, quote, the time finally came for Sally to move out. She began by moving all of her furniture into the family home. A lot of the furniture belonged to both my grandparents and the previous tenants. One of these was a big, beautiful oval mirror with a white frame. It was being stored in our hallway for the time being, along with some other furniture. One day I was sitting in my living room when I heard a loud crash. Sally, who already had moved in, and I went into the hall where my father was standing at the end. What happened? I asked. The mirror broke, he said. It just collapsed. The mirror had fallen on its own whilst he was in another room, he said. He took it outside and placed it in the trash. Then he came back in and asked Sally if she wanted to keep the frame. I found this too, he said, behind the glass. It was a news article from 1985 about some football match. The whole article, however, was written in Italian. That's when Sally remembered Scopata. I asked her where the mirror had come from. Did it belong to our grandparents, a previous tenant, or did she buy it herself? I found it in the attic, she said. I took it down and painted it and hung it in my room. My father told us it belonged to the mother of the last tenant. Let's call her Maria. Maria loved to go traveling the world and had accumulated a lot of stuff from a lot of different places. She had asked her son, the previous tenant, if she could store some of her stuff in his attic, but she forgot to take some of it back. The mirror was one of those things, end quote. That was a lot, and I honestly have no idea what to make of all of that. Maybe you all could tell me. She thinks the mirror was the cause of it all, but why? Because it was old? If it was so haunted and causing all of the paranormal activity, then why did she keep the frame in the end? Could she really have not known that keeping that would just help the activity to continue? Yes, the portal would have been closed, but there's still risk for attachment with keeping the frame. And I added this story just to show you all that it isn't always the mirror's fault. And the activity in the house sounded more to me like either poltergeist activity, which normally is not caused by mirrors, or it could have been one of the sisters themselves who were spontaneously activating. And because most people don't know what that is, what it looks like, or what it's all about, things could start to get a little crazy. Could the mirror have been haunted? Sure. But more than likely, that wasn't the case in this particular situation. However, I will say that I wouldn't recommend keeping anything at all that's found in an attic that doesn't belong to you or someone you know, because you never ever know who the person who owned it before was or what they were all about. I am personally and have always been attracted to vintage and antique things, but I'm lucky enough that I can always tell what's going on with something just by laying my hands on it and concentrating with my spirit eyes. Unfortunately, most of the population aren't that lucky, and yard sales and thrift stores are the #1 places where people end up obtaining haunted or demonically possessed items, estate sales as well. In fact, most paranormal investigators and other types of professionals in the paranormal field will always suggest you not keep these types of things, mirrors specifically, to keep this sort of thing from happening in the first place. It's the better safe than sorry mentality. So there's a report I found in Supernatural magazine that has a witness who claimed that his experience happened at a bed and breakfast in upstate New York that was built in 1845, and it advertises as and is very well known for being haunted. So he went there purposefully knowing he would more than likely encounter something. The witness said that there is a mirror in the place that is also very well known for having supernatural happenings and all sorts of paranormal phenomenon surrounding and attached to it. When talking about the mirror, the witness told the magazine, quote, "The mirror in question here is an old Victorian style, which just happened to come from an old Victorian home just down the street from the hotel. The owners of the mirror had been having strange things happen. Odd lights would come in and out of the mirror, and they would see unknown faces gazing back at them. Growing more and more uncomfortable with these unusual sights, it was decided to take the mirror down the street and see if the owners of the hotel would like to give it a good home. The antique was donated to the hotel and was hung in a place of honor in what is known to be the most haunted room in the building. The beautiful Victorian antique was placed on top of an old dresser, which was already in the room. It was decided that they would just leave the mirror to its own devices and wait to see what, if anything, happened, without mentioning it to their guests. It didn't take long before the mirror started to show signs of strange activity. Things began to happen, small at first with odd balls of light moving about the edges, until over time the energy began to increase and what appeared to be faces started to appear," end quote. So a group of about 6 guests then proceeded to the haunted room to try our luck with the art of mirror divination. The first volunteers to step up had some success when the reflections seemed to change as their faces appeared to get older. After a few minutes, someone suggested, "Willie, why don't you give it a try?" I had never tried anything like this before and immediately agreed to take my turn. Only a few minutes had passed before changes began to take place. The first thing that occurred was that my hair, which was very long at the time, seemed to be getting shorter, and my face began to transform into female features. As I stood motionless in front of the mirror with 5 witnesses seated on the bed to my left, the strange transformation proceeded. Over the next few minutes, the image of my reflection made the change from a 58-year-old man to that of a young teenage girl. Everyone in the room was fascinated with the strange image in the mirror as the young girl became more and more clear, but no one was prepared for what would happen next. Everyone was sitting quietly transfixed on the image while I stood motionless, staring straight into the mirror, not moving a muscle. Suddenly, the image of the young girl turned and looked straight at the people on the bed, and the mouth began to move as if trying to talk to them. It was at this point when some of the group became very uncomfortable and started to leave. The session then came to an end when the face disappeared, end quote. Yeah, the mirror was feeding off of the energy of the people, of the living people in the room there with it. So this guy decides, and this is why my face looked the way it did while I was reading that. This guy decides it's a good idea to get a bunch of people together to go into that room and try some divination in the mirror. And this is a very commonly used practice, but it should only be done by professionals only. And that he and his buddies had no business dabbling in, but okay, let's see how it turned out for them. What they basically did was try and communicate with whatever was lurking and living in the mirror and what was possibly causing all or most of the activity surrounding the thing. Now, to be clear, the hotel is said to have several child spirits and at least one mobster roaming around in it. It is New York, even if it's upstate. Just because the spirits belong to the building or the land or not to the mirror doesn't mean they can't use the mirror as a way to communicate with or terrorize the living, depending on that spirit's individual energy. There are many people who thought that some of the spirits in the hotel were using the mirror as a gateway to access the hotel, meaning they didn't come from the land. So basically, this guy didn't know who or what he was going to be coming into communication with and decided to do the mirror divination anyway. This is something that really, really makes me angry, and it's one of the main reasons why, at least for the most part, I do not ever watch any of the ghost hunting shows on the TV. They got together and came up with a plan to do a divination technique to contact the ghosts and spirits and apparently whatever else was roaming around the area, and they went and they did it. I'm on a bit of a rant, but you have to understand how terrible this is, what they did. Once they actually got a result, they got uncomfortable and they left. How do you think, just think for a minute, how do you think that teenage girl felt being abandoned by the first people maybe in centuries to have noticed her? Granted, maybe they weren't dealing with a teenage girl, but how would they know? They couldn't hear her, true, but they could have given her another means of communication. If you're going to go that far, don't go that far and abandon ship the minute you get what you set out to get. What if she was a demonic entity and had attached herself to one of them? I mean, it just goes to show that unless you're a professional and know what you're doing, you shouldn't be messing around with these types of things. And I mean that sincerely from the bottom of my heart. I know it sounds spooky and it sounds exciting, but the consequences could be deadly or at the very least life-altering in the worst possible way. Totally not worth it. I don't know what became of that guy or his friends either, and since they didn't mention which bed and breakfast it was, and there are many in upstate New York, I don't know if they pulled anything else into the property while conducting their little amateur hour ritual either. Let's hope for the sake of the owners, the people that work there, and the other guests that they didn't bring anything demonic or anything like that in, because it seems like it was like kind of a friendly haunting. It is haunted. You see orbs of light, you see things in the mirrors, but it wasn't that terrible. Skeptics have all kinds of things they'll think up and say to try to make a case for why it's ridiculous to think that mirrors are portals or anything other than average and everyday items. But I think that sort of thinking is ridiculous. In my own experience, it's been proven time and time again that mirrors are, at the very least, portals to other dimensions and realms. You don't even have to be someone with abilities or a professional to know that, and just need to do a simple internet search on the phenomenon to see all of the evidence for yourself. But skeptics always have a field day with the paranormal community because they point to the lack of evidence as evidence of lack. And to me, that's absolutely ludicrous, and it's a dangerous way of thinking. Let me know what you all think about all of this in the comments below, please. That's all I have for you today, guys. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed hanging out with me, and if you enjoyed hanging out with each other in the premiere. I was getting very passionate there in the middle. So, yeah, sorry about that. Spread the love by sharing this video. Don't forget, I'm doing shorts now, mainly Oracle. So go on over and get your minute love reading for September. The first week of September I've done already. So let me know what you all think about that too. Just remember, they're new to me. I'm awkward. I'm nervous. So be nice, okay? On Wednesday nights, you will find myself and Ghost Dragon ZW right here on this channel at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time until 11 p.m. Eastern Time doing live intuitive Oracle. I pull one random card from a random Oracle deck, and I tell you what your next week or two is going to be like. The community in there, the chat in there, even if you don't want to get a reading, it is amazing to come in and hang out. The energy in there is just indescribable. I can't describe it. So come check it out. On any given Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, you will find myself, Ghost Dragon ZW, and Paranormal Pixie with Chillax and Chat, or you will find just Miss Paranormal Pixie with Conversations with Lara, the Paranormal Pixie Hour. And I want to give a big shout out to the Paranormal Pixie because that stream is very popular. People love you. I love you. Thank you for bringing people to the channel and getting me views. On Friday and Saturday nights, you will find Ghost Dragon ZW at midnight Eastern Time doing live from the Dragon's Den conversations with a Ghost Dragons. On Friday night, it's kind of like just chat and chill, those midnight vibes. And on Saturday nights, he does replays of my old videos and comments on them. And it's really funny because I was so awkward and uncomfortable, but I did cover some really awesome topics. So go on in there and check it out. And shout out to Ghost Dragon ZW. I love you for being you. You are amazing. Thank you for all you do as well. Guys, ways to donate to the channel because this is my job. PayPal, Cash App, and Patreon links in the description box. My Amazon wish list gift link is down there as well. And I have the links for all 3 of my books, Kindle and paperback, on Amazon. That's Missing the Fae Theory, Encounters with Evil, 101 True and Terrifying Stories, and Shadow Entities, Sleep Paralysis, and Beyond. I know I'm forgetting a bunch of stuff, but it's been a long day, so I'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you so much for your support with the Oracle, with shorts, with everything that I do. The community that has built up around me is tremendous, and I just love all of you guys and appreciate you all so, so, so much. Specifically and especially my Wednesday night crew, but everybody, you guys are fantastic and amazing. Thank you for watching. I hope you watched it all the way through because that really helps. Be sure to give a like, a positive comment. Guys, share out the video. It all really helps me. Be kind to each other, guys. It doesn't cost anything. Be kind to yourselves and never accept anything less than others being kind to you. If nobody told you today, you're awesome, you're amazing, you can do it. You can do anything you set your mind to, and don't ever let anyone tell you differently. Always go in grace, smile at a stranger, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.